The time has come. Soon, everything you've been too afraid to quit will collapse in your hands. And this time, it breaks for good. This isn't just another month on the calendar, it's a breaking point. For the spiritually awake, October doesn't ask politely. It takes. It strips away the habits, the patterns, even the identities you swore you needed to survive. And it does it with precision. What you thought was permanent will suddenly look fragile. And here's the truth: this isn't punishment. It's a test of how much you're willing to let go so that life can finally feel lighter. This is the month where what you quit isn't a choice. It's destiny, pulling something out of reach before you even realize how much it was costing you. But if you think that's intense, wait until you discover the first thing October rips from your grip. A quiet, invisible lie you've been living for years without even realizing it. And here's the first thing you'll notice as soon as we cross into October. So many people live in the one-day fantasy. One day when I have enough money, one day when I fix myself, one day when I finally figure things out, then I'll start living. October smashes that illusion. For the spiritually awake, this is the month where the waiting ends. You don't get to hide behind someday anymore because you'll realize the list never actually ends. There's always another excuse, another delay, another reason to wait. But this October, the spiritually awake will quit postponing life. They'll understand presence isn't after the checklist, it's right now. Freedom doesn't come after the breakthrough, it comes the moment you stop stalling. And the irony, the very thing you've been waiting for, it only shows up once you stop waiting. Which means the next thing October forces you to quit isn't just about timing, it's about something far darker, something that's been silently steering your life without you ever noticing. Superiority is just insecurity wearing a crown. One of the quietest traps of the spiritual path is the need to feel above everyone else. It's subtle. You don't walk around saying it out loud, but it's there. The thought that your awareness is deeper, your insight is sharper, your journey is more meaningful than the rest. For a while, it feels like proof that you're evolving, like validation that you're on the right track. But October flips that script. This month, the spiritually awake will start to see that the very need to be superior is nothing more than ego in disguise. It's not enlightenment, it's performance. It's just another costume, another role, another way to hide behind the fear of being ordinary. Here's the shift. When the performance of specialness fades, your real uniqueness finally shows up. And it has nothing to do with being better. It has everything to do with being real. No comparisons, no invisible scoreboard, no silent competition, just you, finally enough without needing to be above anyone. And when that illusion collapses, it opens the door to something even bigger. Because once you stop chasing superiority, you realize the next addiction hiding underneath has been there all along. Not every wound is proof you're alive. For so many spiritually awake people, there's been a hidden addiction that almost nobody talks about: the addiction to struggle. It's the belief that if life isn't heavy, if you're not grinding through pain, if you're not constantly battling something, then you're not really growing. Somewhere along the line, struggle became the badge of authenticity, the evidence that you're truly doing the work. But October is ruthless with this illusion. This is the month where that unconscious loyalty to suffering starts to break. You'll feel it. The moment you realize that the endless fight isn't sacred anymore, it's just draining. That holding onto pain for meaning is like carrying dead weight, mistaking it for armor. Here's the twist. It's not about quitting a job, or a habit, or even a relationship. It's about quitting an identity. The part of you that only knows how to survive through hardship will finally loosen its grip. And in its place, A new aliveness comes through, one that doesn't need constant crisis to feel real. And when that shift happens, you'll see that the very fuel you thought you needed, pain, struggle, resistance, was never life itself. It was the cage. And once that cage begins to crack in October, something much more dangerous and much more liberating will start to take its place. Certainty is the cage that wisdom refuses to live in. For most of our lives, certainty feels like safety. We cling to answers, labels, explanations, anything that can make life feel less unpredictable. The spiritually awake often fall into this too, constantly searching for the next explanation, the next system, the next truth that will finally make everything clear. It feels responsible, even empowering, to collect answers like trophies. But October begins to unravel this obsession. This month, many spiritually awake people will start to feel how exhausting the chase for certainty really is. It's like drinking salt water. You keep consuming, but the thirst never goes away. The harder you cling to answers, the more life finds ways to remind you that those answers were only temporary. Here's the shift. Awakening doesn't give you control, it teaches you to stop demanding it. That the essence of deeper wisdom is the ability to live with mystery and paradox. And this October, you'll notice that the things you were desperate to nail down, why certain things happened, where exactly your life is heading, what this or that sign truly means, suddenly won't feel as urgent. The desperation fades. Instead of scrambling for conclusions, you begin to feel a strange peace in not knowing. This isn't passivity, it's trust. It's the realization that wisdom isn't found in having answers. It's found in being able to live without them. You'll quit forcing your path into clean categories and start accepting that real transformation is messy, unpredictable, and full of mystery. And the paradox is this: the more you release your need for certainty, the more clarity life actually reveals. But if the need for certainty falls away in October, there's another shadow to confront, one that hides behind the very practices and beliefs that seem to help you grow in the first place. You can't meditate your way out of being human. One of the most hidden traps on the spiritual path is bypassing. The quiet way, people use spirituality to avoid life instead of actually engaging with it. And October brings this into sharp focus. For spiritually awake people, this is the month where the veil on bypassing starts to tear. Think about how often it shows up, using meditation to avoid uncomfortable emotions instead of processing them. Throwing out phrases like, "everything happens for a reason," to dismiss pain, instead of actually sitting with it. Or even convincing yourself that boundaries aren't needed because we're all one, while quietly allowing your energy to be drained over and over. At first, these strategies feel enlightened. They give the illusion of strength. But in truth, they're escape hatches, ways of avoiding the depth of being fully alive. This October, spiritually awake people will begin to quit this pattern, not because it suddenly stops working, but because life itself won't let it. You'll feel it in the situations you can't ignore anymore, the emotions that don't dissolve, no matter how much you meditate, the relationships that won't shift until you finally say, enough. For the first time, you'll recognize that true growth doesn't come from escaping your humanity, but from integrating it. Spirituality is not meant to silence your pain. It's meant to give you the courage to face it. It's not about floating above the human experience. It's about diving into it with open eyes and an open heart. And this is what October strips away: the illusion that you can transcend your life by avoiding it. The truth is, the most spiritual thing you'll ever do is be fully human, messy, raw, vulnerable, and still choosing to grow. And once this realization lands, bypassing loses its power. What replaces it is something far more dangerous to the ego, but far more liberating to the soul. Urgency is the thief that convinces you presence isn't enough. One of the loudest illusions on the spiritual path is the constant voice whispering, telling you that you have to hurry up, then you're running out of time, turning growth into a competition as if enlightenment were a finish line waiting to be crossed. But October marks the collapse of this fake urgency. This month, many will begin to feel the exhaustion of the self-imposed race, like carrying a weight that no longer makes sense. The pressure to constantly keep up begins to feel hollow, and when that pressure finally cracks, you realize something staggering. There was never a race at all. The rush to get there was nothing more than the mind trying to outpace the present moment. Urgency has always been a chain disguised as motivation. It convinces you that peace exists somewhere else, sometime later, after you've done enough. But awakening shows the opposite. Peace is only ever available here, in this exact breath. The moment you stop running, you discover you were already where you were trying to go. October intensifies this realization. The spiritually awake will begin to quit the obsession with timelines, with comparing themselves to others, with measuring their progress like a scoreboard. They'll see how much of their suffering wasn't about life itself, but about the story they told themselves about not being fast enough. And in that release, time starts to feel different. Days stretch, moments deepen. You stop trying to bend the clock to your will, and for the first time, you feel what it means to actually live inside it. This isn't laziness, and it isn't resignation. It's liberation. It's the understanding that transformation isn't delayed when urgency falls away. It's accelerated because you finally stop resisting the present. The paradox is simple. The moment you quit the race, you discover you've already arrived. And when spiritually awake, people begin to feel this shift in October. It breaks more than just the illusion of urgency. It dismantles the very structure of how they've been measuring their worth. And what comes after that collapse is something far more powerful than speed. It's sovereignty. Validation is the sugar that tastes sweet, but keeps you starving. Even for those who are spiritually awake, there's often a quiet thread still pulling at them. This need to be seen, to be recognized, to be validated. It might not look like the loud, obvious approval-seeking of trying to impress everyone, but it lingers in the subtle rituals. The way you word a post so it lands better, the way you share a thought, hoping someone nods, the way you soften your truth so it doesn't make others uncomfortable. It's approval dressed in spiritual clothing. But October exposes the absurdity of all of this. The energy of this month makes the compliments feel strangely hollow, and the criticisms lose their sting. What once felt like a hit of significance suddenly dissolves into emptiness. And it's not because people stop caring about you, it's because you stop needing them to. The currency of approval no longer buys you anything real. Spiritually awake, people will begin to quit this performance unconsciously, not with a big declaration, but like a shadow fading when the light shifts. They'll notice themselves speaking without rehearsing, expressing without waiting for applause, living without performing. And in that shift, a deeper kind of freedom sneaks in. The truth is, seeking approval was never about others. It was about bargaining with yourself. It was about saying, if they see me, then I'm allowed to exist. But October cuts through this illusion. The moment you quit seeking to be seen, you finally see yourself. That realization isn't loud, it's quiet. and yet it changes everything. Without the leash of approval, you stop editing your soul to fit the room. You stop chasing the rush of being liked, and you stop fearing the shadow of being disliked. Compliments don't inflate you, insults don't deflate you. You become unshakable, not because the world changed, but because the weight you gave it dissolved. And here's the paradox. When you no longer need approval, you radiate a presence that magnetizes people even more. Not because you're performing, but because authenticity has a gravity of its own. October is the month where, spiritually awake, people quit the hunger for validation. And in doing so, they taste the one thing approval could never give them: wholeness. Happiness is not the proof of awakening, wholeness is. For so long, spirituality has been marketed as a kind of eternal sunshine, smiling faces, glowing affirmations, carefully filtered lives that suggest enlightenment means never being touched by sadness, anger, or despair. And many spiritually awake people, even unconsciously, have carried that performance. They force a smile in moments of grief. They say, "It's all love," while their chest tightens with rage. They dismiss their own suffering with mantras like, "Everything happens for a reason." But October shatters that illusion. The act of wearing joy like a mask suddenly feels exhausting, even insulting to the soul. There is no more energy left for playing enlightened, for pretending that pain doesn't sting, or for squeezing every experience into the narrow box of positivity. Because the deeper truth emerges, authenticity is more spiritual than performance. This month, spiritually awake, people will quit the theater of constant happiness. They'll stop pretending to be untouched, and instead, they'll allow themselves to be human in the most divine sense. Tears will be recognized as sacred, anger as clarifying, grief as connective, and joy as luminous, not superior, just one voice in the choir of being. Light doesn't erase shadow, it makes it visible. That realization flips everything. People will begin to see that their humanity was never in conflict with their spirituality. In fact, the attempt to bypass humanity was the real block all along. Forced positivity is not presence, it is denial dressed as wisdom. And October makes denial impossible to sustain. The performance of happiness is seductive because it wins approval. No one criticizes the smiling sage, the endlessly optimistic healer, the guru who glows with positivity. But that persona isn't real, it's a costume. And a costume, no matter how convincing, is still heavy to wear. If you're still watching, I'd like to thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed the content and want to see more, please consider clicking the subscribe button. Your support is very appreciated. Feel free to share your experiences or thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care and subscribe for more insightful content.